Today's episode is brought to you by Archon Mounts. For those of you that are content creators and you want the best mounting solutions for your cell phones, your DSLR cameras, well, go to archon.com. Be sure to use my promo code Hawai'i and you'll get 20% off your entire order. Also, all of their products come with a lifetime guarantee. So head on over to archon.com, keeping your devices within reach. Today's episode is brought to you by One Shot Energy Voice Drops. They are a low-sugar yuzu honey lozenge that soothes and protects your throat and voice with an infusion of slippery elm, marshmallow, and licorice root. Whether you are a full-time gamer, public speaker, pastor, preacher, teacher, maybe you like doing podcasting, you got to get your hands on these voice drops by oneshotenergy.com. Be sure to use my promo code AMBGLO for 10% off your entire order. OneShotEnergy.com.
To whoever may need this nugget of encouragement, things will be alright, so quit your worrying. I get it, the odds can stack back against the wall, but even consider it such, know you'll stand firm. Sit and watch from the sidelines one too many times.
What's up, family? Aloha. We are live. We are live. We are live. We're live on, what are we live on? YouTube, Twitch, Kick, and Rumble, as well as X, and then also Spotify, Apple Podcasts later, assuming there's no helicopters flying by or dogs barking in the audio. Thank you for being here. My name is Butter Greg, aka The Real gLO. If you don't know who I am by now, I've got my branding all over the screen, so hopefully you know who I am by now. But we also have my wife, Emily, who is here with us. And we are just blessed to share life with you. Today, we're going to talk about, is Hawaii dead? Are we make dai dead, as we say in Hawaii? Are we make dai? So make dai dead is just dead. It's like a dead, like super dead.
Super dead.
Super dead.
There's such a thing as super dead.
And then we're going to talk about, where's my list? We're going to talk about, I don't have a list. I have like two things. The idea of Hawaii, is Hawaii dead? You ready for camera?
Yeah.
Okay, let's put away from one camera. We don't know who that beautiful Hawaiian, Samoan, no, Puerto Rican, Hawaiian, Samoan, Tongan, and Maori. So if you guys want to know what a Hawaiian could look like back in the day, here's a glimpse. I am kind of Hawaiian. I'm like a quarter Hawaiian, Chinese, Filipinos. Anyways.
Aloha, everybody.
Malo elele.
Malo elele.
Talofa lava to all of my Samoan friends. To
lava.
Go ahead to our Fijians.
Bula vinaka.
In case you guys wonder what she's looking at
The lights.
the Samoans in the lights.
I'm thinking, wait, Bula vinaka is Fijian, and then Kiora.
Kiora is Maori.
Maori.
To our friends in Aotearoa.
In Tonga, you say malo elele.
Malo elele. Of course,
And
Hawaii we say.
In Hawaii,
Hawaii.
it's
Yep.
aloha, or it's afternoon, so it's aloha awinala. Where's aloha ahi ahi?
Ahi ahi.
Forget.
Kind of.
My brain is.
And then if you are in
tired.
Japan, to all of my friends in Japan, I don't know what time. Hey, Google, what time is it in Japan?
The time in Tokyo, Japan, is 7:52 a.m. on Friday.
To all of my friends in Japan, ohayo gozaimasu. Hi. And then to our friends in Korea, annyeonghaseyo.
Then to our friends in Tahiti, yorana.
Yorana. So that's our greetings to everybody. To my friends in who else can we say hi to? And by the way, before I get my Spotify, let me give it a special shout out. I'm Spotify. I showed you the video last night. I felt so special. They made me feel special. So if anybody is thinking of being a content creator on Spotify, do it. Do it now, because they treat you really well.
Okay, but you're gonna say hi to.
Oh, because of countries. So I can't think of any other countries. I can say, well, I don't know Serbian, but
Good day, mate.
out there in the water.
What is that? Australian.
Saltwater Crocs there. Out there in the water. You want the flipper burger? No, I don't know what that is. I probably shouldn't have said that. Who else? Anybody else we can say hi to? What about Russian? Any Russian? What is Russian? Hey Google, what is hello in Russian?
In Russian, that's привет.
Oh yeah,
Привет.
Привет. Привет. I forgot about hello, hello. I knew that. Привет to all of my Russian friends out there in Volgograd, Russia. Appreciate you very much. I only have one guy I know. That is Alex from Russia Live on Twitter. That's it. So going back to Spotify, man, they made me feel special. So on Spotify, they do an end of the year compilation of everything you've done from podcasts to analytics, and man, they did a good job. I wish I could share. I think I can. I just haven't figured it out. But they made this whole video production of my stats and the people that I reached and my demographics. They threw out percentages, all that good stuff. Something else. I think that's it. But it was cool. Yeah. Hey, let's get right into the video. I want to play the video and we'll talk about it. So if you're joining us brand new, live, first time, thank you. We appreciate you. If you guys want to connect with us, go to therealglo.com. That's my website. It's in my bio on all socials, all platforms. And if you're on YouTube, Twitch, Kick, or Rumble, little subscribe would be nice. You don't have to if you don't like it. You don't like our content, but it would be appreciated. So thank you for the likes, shares, and subscribes for those of you that are able to do that. So, okay, let's play the video, and then we'll explain it. So let me play the video. This is from, is it yesterday? Day before yesterday? Day before yesterday, probably. Because it wasn't live yesterday. Was it live?
It went viral though. among Hawaiians.
So this is a 3-minute clip. It's not that long. And if you don't want to watch the whole thing, you can come back after 3 minutes and we'll explain it. But there are some very important parts you don't want to miss in the video. So let's play it.
Hello, please. Hello, good morning. I'm a United States Army Master Sergeant retired, 23 years. First 2 years in Vietnam, I ended my 23rd year in Desert Storm. Yeah, I'm a Hawaiian too. I'm 72 years old. Andrea, Augie, I appreciate this. I really do. And I'm in support of it.
I think that's
I can't, I don't know if you can hear me or not, but I would like the translation of the earlier testimonies for 61 and I think 62. They originally were, and it is not to not know. I'm assuming that would not work on translator.
Okay, thank you for your comments. I believe the testimony was both in English and in Hawaiian. Mr. Clerk, let's move on, please. Putting items on pages 6 and 7, I believe we had 2 people with their hands up. I do want to note that of the state of Hawaii. Councilmember Kiaina?
Yes, and I'm sorry. No offense to the testifier, but how dare you say that? It is not a dead language. It's very, very much alive. And if it wasn't for the fact our language We would be speaking very respectful when you come to testify at the city council.
Hikia uke o lalo Hawai'i ke ia manawa I ke ia halavai in the halavai and in any other meeting that I choose the 15th article clear that it's okay to speak it and Auntie Kapua did speak it and then translate for herself. So thank you. We are not trying to exclude anyone. Definitely when we speak Hawaiian, we try to translate it after for other people to hear as well. And yes, my kids did go to Hawaiian immersion and we speak Hawaiian in our home.
Okay, I think we froze.
Or that.
Let's end it just in case it locks us out. So
It could be the video. Well, what she said in the end was that her kids did go to Hawaiian immersion school and they do speak Hawaiian in their home and it is not a dead language.
this thing might freeze us up. That's the thing, we're operating on live. So yeah, so you want to go ahead and give us a commentary on what we just heard or saw. Go ahead, honey.
Hiya. That was interesting. That was very interesting. Because I was like, wait, what? Because the first time I heard it, I was like, wait, what? And so I went back to go watch the whole video because, you know, like what we just saw, you know, there were just very really say that and really, I don't want to get into all of that because, you know, it is very, very annoying. Yeah, it's so to speak that this lady is not even from Hawaii. So yes, Andrea Tupola, she is Hawaiian. Esther Kiana, she is Hawaiian. And then if you look and you see the Howley man or the white man that was talking, he brings forth the city council. He is actually Hawaiian. And actually we had a conversation about that because you can tell just by the way that he talks and he enunciates.
Did you look him up at all?
Tommy Waters.
Oh, okay. That's his name. Okay.
So Andrea Tupola actually, she posted a post and that's what I was saying.
Okay.
Because remember I was saying, it's like, he sounds like he's Hawaiian because you can hear the language. But so those three, they all actually graduated from Kamehameha is what she said. And the three of them are Hawaiian. And he made a comment that he said, no, the Hawaiian language is not a dead language. It is the language of the land. So if we go into the Constitution, if you want to look up the Hawaii Constitution, in Article 15, I actually pulled it up so that we can look in that. Article 15, Section 4 of the Hawaii Constitution states that Hawaiian is the official language of the state. So, according to the Hawaiian...
just to be clear, one of two. Hawaii has two official. Hawaiian is not the official, it's one of the two.
According to the Hawaii Constitution, the language of the land is considered to be Hawaiian, with the state motto, Ua mau ke ea o ka aina I ka pono.
Okay.
translating to the life of the land is perpetuated in righteousness, signifying the importance of the Hawaiian language and culture within the state, making Hawaiian an official language alongside English. I think we are the only state that has
two
languages.
I did look it up last night just to make sure we're like
I have it.
Yeah, we are the only state in the United States
that has a dual language, because
now, because people are gonna fact check. They're gonna say, to be clear, there's 3 other states that allow other languages,
right?
But it's not the official state language,
right? Because Hawaii was a kingdom in itself, so the official language of Hawaii was always Hawaiian. So,
yeah,
I believe so. That's why there's a dual language there.
Yeah,
because Hawaiians only spoke Hawaiian, right, until there was public schools made, and I don't know when that came into play, because in public schools you could not speak your language. You had to learn how to speak English, and they were trying to ban the Hawaiian language.
well, and it did, and for like my grandmother.
No,
Yeah,
I'm talking about
in our lifetime, maybe
they're trying to ban it within the whole state, but you got Hawaiian people who is not gonna. You got Hawaiian people like my great grandparents who like that's the only language that they spoke. They're not gonna stop speaking their language to try and learn your language when they're like 50, 60 years old. You can't change that in them, but they did, force them not to speak the language in schools.
Well, they made it very difficult. They penalized them for speaking.
Yeah, they couldn't speak the language in school. They had to speak English.
Good to
Obviously, when they went home,
good to see Tala.
They couldn't speak the language. They couldn't speak that language.
Let me acknowledge Tala. Hey, Tala, good to see you. Thank you for joining us. She's a very avid supporter of our side, so I want to acknowledge her. So for context of the video, for anybody that caught it, if you didn't watch it, you can catch on my Twitter, on my X. The lady who spoke, and you can correct me at any time, but the lady came in and spoke. This was part of a city council meeting, hearing, or it was like 8 hours, at least 8 hours.
It was a city council meeting that they had because there's a lot of things on the table that they were
how many hours?
It was 8 hours.
At least 8 hours.
At least 8 hours of this meeting.
And so I'm sure every state has, because Hawaii doesn't have its own governmental structure. They basically copy, Western culture when it comes to, but then of course you have Hawaii tradition and its own. But so they allow testimony, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just what I did in what year was that when we did SB1? Let's ask Google. Hey Google, when was the SB1 hearings in Hawaii?
Sorry, I didn't
She doesn't know.
I'll look it up.
So for people that don't know, I did a written testimony in front of our state legislature back in 2014. It was to protest a bill that they were trying to pass. It was it was a law that they're going to try to pass without the people knowing. Like literally.
Was it 2023?
No. SB1 was in 2014 or 2013 or something like that. I want to say 2014. It's pretty close to when Jasmine, or not Jasmine. So yeah, so it was a law that they're trying to pass, a same-sex marriage law for the entire state.
2014, somewhere around there because Abercrombie was
so whenever
governor.
So anyways, they tried to pass this law without the people knowing. And once the people found out, they started to protest, and they had at least 10,000 people at the front doors of the state capitol, literally, actually more than that. But so we were there, we were protesting the whole week. We had our written testimonies, we submitted it, and then they allowed us to come up and speak and read our written testimony or share whatever it was on our heart.
Right, again.
So that's how it works. Even with the video they just saw, people were. So anyways, right,
but so in context, this was a city council meeting. City council meetings are to set policies, ordinances, approving the city budgets, making decisions that impact the community through creation and implementation of local laws and regulations. Basically, like stuff like, what do you call that? Like putting in bike lanes, or if they need more pedestrian crosswalks,
All
or
kinds of little projects.
yeah. So this one they were talking about Papa Wheelies. I don't know if you guys know what that is. Kids are on the bike and they lift up their bikes and stuff, because now we have electric bikes. It's not just the manual bikes where you just fall off, get
so they were talking
couple
about
scrapes or whatever. But this one is with the electric bikes, where I think a kid died doing
So
something.
let's go
like
to
that.
what the lady was talking about.
Anyway, so in this meeting, they were talking about things like that, and so people were coming up giving testimonies, and then they had testimonies where people could come on video or telephone calls. So I think the first one was she came on and she was doing the telephone call. The second video that she came on, and the second time she testified was she was on video, and I was reading Andrea Topola's response, and she said she was kind of taken aback, and I think everybody was really taken aback. Like, what? What are you talking about?
Here's a question: what would have been more offensive? Would it have been more offensive if it was a Hawaiian person that said that?
Yeah, that it would be more offensive if it was a Hawaiian person, because you are the people. That's your culture. That's your people. And that's where you come from, and you should know your history, language, and how much it affected us as a people. And I do want to say that hula was a thing that really preserved our language, because hula Yoni spoke in Hawaiian, right? Yoni sang in Hawaiian, Yoni chanted in Hawaiian, and that pretty much, I didn't say it saved our language, but it helped keep our language alive. If that was the only burning ember, was the ember.
It was a vehicle. That's
right.
how I would say it. It was a vehicle that gave people, I don't know, it made them look at it. It made them look at Hawaii. Now, of course, there are some negative things, like of course, Lilo and Stitch, the way they just totally gentrified, or different types of adaptations of it, like Bugs Bunny, all those.
Yeah,
it's not a skin color, but the haole culture, where they would just disrespect.
So we always had to fight to keep our language alive, which, whether it was like my grandma would kind of crack me up now, but my grandma would say stuff like she would tell me stories about going to school and not being able to speak the language, and they actually would spank them for speaking Hawaiian if you spoke Hawaiian and not English. But when they go home, they get spanking for speaking English and not Hawaiian, because your family at home, they only spoke Hawaiian. Plus they're upset with everything that happened. So no, I don't want to speak that language, right? And then Kekula Kaiopuni, they are Hawaiian immersion schools. Okay, they're called Kekula Kaiopuni, wherever they were. My sister worked at Anuenue, in Palolo Valley, and they help to preserve the language, and they train them from the time they're in kindergarten to learn the language. And then they learn side by side Hawaiian and English when they begin 5th grade, I think it is, and then they learn the language side by side. Right, I agree, Tala, that there's a lot of died out languages that have been lost in the native, even the Native American.
So here's Keawe on Twitter, Humunuku Apua. He didn't spell it right, but I'm sure somebody took his username. So his username on Twitter on X is Humunuku Apua.
Keawe is his name.
Yeah, but his user handle. So if people want to look him up, that's his user handle. It's Humunuku Apua _. He quoted, "They were speaking in a language that wasn't English. I am assuming that it was Hawaiian, and that is a dead language." That's what she said. And so, just for context, What people do not understand is that Hawaii, I'm going to reinforce what you said, Hawaii is the only state in the United States that has two official languages of the state. That now, when I was talking about Alaska, and there's two other states that have multiple languages that they accept, but let me put it into context. If I go and speak Hawaiian at any government building, I am not required to translate. I can tell you whatever I want in Hawaiian.
Right.
It is not my duty to tell you what I'm saying. If you want to accept it, that's fine. If you don't understand it, that's you. You gotta go figure that. That's so that's because it's an official language, right?
So because it's an official language, the government has to provide an interpreter for those who cannot understand.
But it's not for me.
But it's not.
It's for them.
Yes.
So that law is very clear. That it's not so that you can conform to them. The law is very clear.
Yes.
The translator is for. I'm making sure that I know you understand. My wife's looking at me. I know what you're talking about. It's not for you, honey. It's for them. So they, my wife, honey, we're talking to people, not like.
No, I because I was gonna say in the same way, like because we have so many different ethnic groups in Hawaii, they have to provide interpreters for like those who speak Chinese in Hawaii. There are people who speak Chinese that is like a like Cantonese, which is a language,
or even
but
Spanish.
But you got Mandarin, which is a very rare language in Hawaii, and they only had two interpreters.
Draw that line. Let's draw that line right there. That's a good line to draw. All those other languages, Spanish included, they have to conform to either Hawaiian or English, according to state law and federal law.
Mm-hmm.
And in that case, it is their responsibility, not the state's, right?
Yep.
To make sure that if I'm Hawaiian and I speak only Hawaiian, tough luck. Hey, this is the official language. You go figure it out. I'm not required to provide translation. If you want to get a translation, you go ahead and go do so. So that's the difference between Hawaii and any other state. So, for example, most people say, well, Spanish is, well, if you speak Spanish, by law, right, it's not the same as it is in Hawaii when it comes to Hawaiian.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and this is why we have an official language, is because Hawaii was a kingdom in itself. And so when Hawaii was a kingdom in itself, we did accept different people who wanted to come and be a part of Hawaii. And they also spoke the language because they learned the language because it was the language of the land until annexation or whatever happened. Annexation happened.
Yeah. Let me take that off screen because we moved that.
But that is why Hawaii, we have our official language as Hawaiian. And then, of course, we had two different people, kingdoms, whatever, at that time.
So when a lady said, I don't think it's fair that testimonies number 61 and 62 or whatever she said, that it's not fair that they can speak something and nobody understands.
But, and she wasn't listening because she wasn't paying attention, because whatever was spoken in Hawaiian, most of the people who spoke in Hawaiian, it wasn't just that one lady that was giving testimony in Hawaiian.
There was a lot.
Okay, so if you heard that one man that was talking, he was speaking in Hawaiian as well. But they also come back and let you know what they said.
Out of courtesy
to you, and then to perpetuate our language so that you could understand our language as well. So it's like it had dual purpose. It wasn't just, I trying to go over there and, trying to make like I'm.
We didn't show the video, but if you guys go on my Twitter or my X profile, there were other clips that where the lady came back.
Yeah, she came back again.
And she was flexing federal law, which is kind of irrelevant when you're doing a city council hearing. This is not a civil hearing this is just to pass local city ordinances and policies. So
but this thing is getting so much traction.
Yeah, you got to go on my
Hawaii people.
If you guys want to go for the full story, go on to on my Instagram and follow Andrea Tupola. Tupola, is it Tupola? Tupola.
Tupola.
So Andrea Tupola, she's one of the lawmakers, and there's another great lawmaker. If you watch the video and you zoom into the right, you see one of our favorites, Augie T, Mr. Augie Toba, and we're actually friends with his brother. I met Augie, but it's just like in passing, superficial. But his brother,
Ronnie's
funny. The whole family's funny.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah. So,
but okay, so in this city council meeting, this is why they have city council meetings. When it's public, you can come and give your testimony, and that's why they were sharing different testimonies. And the testimonies that were shared, if you're listening to the people, they're talking about the issues at hand, right? And this lady was like, not talking about the issues at hand, basically. But the second time she came back and she gave her testimony, she, at the end, she was trying to come back and say something about to Andrea, who corrected her about the language. And then she was saying something to the fact of it being a dead language again. And so Tommy Water goes, oh, so I guess
this is the
that's
first
the
time.
lady.
Yeah, so they figured out she was playing ninja. And by the way, hello, TNT. I'm TNT. Dynamite. He's on Kick. Thank you for being on Kick. But yeah, he was like, well, that's the first time I've ever heard of our language being extinct. He used the word extinct.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, if you look at the guy, the chair. Oh. So if you look at the chair of in that hearing, very fair skinned, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the truth is, if you know, you listen to him talk, you're like, this brother gets some pidgin. You know what I mean? He has some legit Hawaiian, because he said our language.
Yeah.
So.
And I said the same thing before. I said people who lived in the land their whole life knows.
Yeah.
They know, and
even the Howleys that was born and raised and they grew up there, they cannot hide it. They cannot hide the culture that's in them, even if they're not ethnically Hawaiian. They're one with the land, basically. When you think about it,
I mean, they love being in Hawaii as well. You know? The culture. And more and more people are upset about it because Tala knows the same thing. People get upset about it because our languages were almost died out. We almost died out people. You don't have a language, you don't have an identity, you don't have a culture that you can really identify with, which brings people to a place where they're like, who am I don't know who I am, right? And when you kind of get into that place where I don't know who I am, then people kind of go haywire because I'm
gonna put her comment up, Scott. I didn't mean to dismiss it. I know you read it, but so Tala said that my tribe has stomp dance and the songs are a big part of that. Many can't even be translated, but now people still know them at least. And my wife and I were talking earlier before we went live, before we turned the cameras on. We were talking about how did a character, we didn't disagree, but I want to be clear that Hawaii, I'm not saying there's levels of worse or worser or whatever. What I am saying though, there's a little difference in how Hawaii was treated and the First Nations people of North America. The First Nation, again, I'm not just talking about United States, we're talking about United States, Canada, and probably lower parts of the North America.
Well, all of North America, when you look back in history, all of North America, this is where the natives were because they followed where their food was.
My point being is that there was 30 million that were massacred over a period of time. I'm sure the numbers
were more
not accurate, but I'm just throwing it from my last Google search. So Hawaii fortunately had something had a different setup, right? Our setup was that we were localized on a small island chain. Our people anyway.
We did have other influences as well that came over through the land, which was Russia, and then you had the the British rule, right? So Britain kind of was the same because Britain,
They were the largest rule, right, or influence.
right, and they operated as a kingdom as well, back then.
So I
don't know what Russia
didn't have the heavy influence or interest, and I think part of it because you look at the dates, look at the time frame. America became a I don't want to say nation, but in 1776, right, 13 colonies. Right around that time, we already had plantations and people monetizing our land, basically, right? And so you figure if England, the UK, or not UK, if England could not advance on that front, let's take this on this side. So they start influencing. That's why for people that look at a Hawaiian flag, they're like, wow, that looks a lot like Britain's flag. That's because
there's a lot of British influence.
That's where the flag came from. That they got the flag from Britain, and then they made their own design on it.
Our kings and queens weren't not smart. They were very smart. I mean, Kamehameha made friends with Russian commanders and stuff. He saw, he was a strategic king of war. Right. He was very strategic in the way that he did things. I mean, he had to be in order for him to conquer all the islands. Right.
I think that was a saving grace when it comes to our people, culture, the language, is that even though different islands and different different chiefs had different ways of saying or doing things, for the most part, it was very similar and everything came together. Mm-hmm. Even though it led to the overthrow of our own kingdom.
Now, he did have family that ruled other islands, right? So, of course, they're going to come alongside him as well, right? And then you got, I think it was Kauai that just surrendered, right? And
let me acknowledge some people real quick before they step out. Fractal Surfer, thank you for joining us. Beth, we see you. And, of course, Tala, thank you for me. And, of course, the other people that are incognito, thank you for watching. Of course, YouTube, Twitch, Kick, and Rumble. If you're not already subscribed, please do so. We would love it. You don't have to. And if you like just listening to our beautiful voices while you're on the road, you can follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts as well. Just make sure you click on that subscribe button. Okay, set it off. Go ahead, honey.
I am going to say that Hawaii is not dead, but I also feel like, and this is my opinion, is that if you raise up the rent or the prices of the land, right, then where you expect the people to go, right? And if you get enough of the people of the land to move out, right, and then you get a westernized state.
And traditionally, historically, that's not how we operated as a culture. Mm-hmm. Right. So a lot of people well, somebody said the other day, just Hawaii go do the tech industry. And well, that's fine. That works. But that's not how our people, it's kind of like a lot of indigenous cultures in North America. You can call them whatever you want, Indians or Native Americans. But it's not in a culture to have land ownership. We were stewards of land.
Right.
And if you really want to get into it, that goes for haole culture too. You think you own the land, but after you're dead, you don't own it. Somebody else does.
Somebody else
does. It's not you. Yeah.
In our culture, it was a generational way of living. So the generational way is you teach people, right? You teach your family how to steward the land so that when you are gone as well, then they can steward the land as well, right? So it's of no benefit that, your kids just kind of hang around and do whatever, right? In the same way, that's what makes our culture different from a lot of other cultures, is where we train our kids to do things, right? Whether it's wash dishes, wash clothes, learn how to cook, care for each other, care for your family, care for your siblings, care for your cousins, take in your family if they need help, for a season, and then they go back out. If they need help again, then they come back in. Or somebody passed away and they left a child behind. Okay, which one in the family is going to take the babies in? Which one in the family is going to take the kids in? And then they all come together as a community to help each other. And that's pretty much how we do. And even when, like, even when somebody passes away, right? Like when my grandma passed away, I can tell you we had the uku million noodles, the big pans of noodles. Like, I don't know how we're going to eat this much noodles. Anybody need noodles?
So if anybody doesn't know what uku million is, that number. So just to be clear, I don't want anybody to think, oh, well, you guys are so prideful. We do the same thing, which is true. And we're not saying only Hawaiians do what my wife said. However, culturally, it's understood that, for example, and this is not like a Lopez thing or Rodriguez or Lima thing or whatever Hawaiian name you want to throw out there. This is a culture thing. When you come to a party in Hawaii and it's a Hawaiian family, it's already understood you're going to go home with a bag full of food. That's just a culture. We don't do chips and salsa. I'm sorry. If anybody does chips and salsa, God bless you. We don't do tacos. We do plate lunch. Okay, so plate lunch is like the only people that beat us. The only people that beat us, I will say, is our Turkish friends.
Say Micronesians.
Are the Micronesians, bro. So
it's not even a plate. It's like a foil pan.
Yeah, the foil pan you buy at Walmart. Bro, my friends that are so if you don't know what Micronesian, go look it up. For to make it real simple,
they are a type of Polynesians.
But those are the ones that the United States did nuclear bomb testing on.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why they're hungry all the time. But anyway, that's a joke. But anyway, so Hawaiians, you go when you make your plate, you literally it's okay. Pile it up because there's like 5 more trays just for you. So from a cultural perspective, that's kind of how we are, right? We're always taking care, even after you've like and you're ready to go home, right? Hey, no, don't leave it. Hold on, I'm packing your bag. Right? So you got lunch for tomorrow. The kids can, you have dinner. You don't have to cook tomorrow. Just warm up the food. That's culture.
Right. So even in the same way, when people are grieving, it's not coming to stay, hang out or whatever. Maybe that's something that they need, but majority of people, families will come, give hugs, tell them, we love you, we're praying for you, whatever. And then they drop the food off and then they would leave. That's kind of how families would do. And then a lot of times you'd have family just come and hang out.
Here's a question.
Not even say anything, just sit and hang out. But
can you see
Paula had a question.
Yeah, so it's just that, do Hawaiian people have designated no, not like how she's asking, but we can
I mean, back in the day they did have different tribes, chiefs, because on different parts of the islands they had different chiefs and stuff. When Kamehameha united everything, everybody just came under the one rule. Although on every island there is, I don't want to say a dialect, maybe it's a dialect of the way that they would speak, in the way that they would speak. But even as kings and queens, they even understood that, right? So to give honor to maybe a king or a chief on Kauai, they would use their language while also speaking when they identify different things.
It was a way of honoring, number one, and I'll throw his name out there. Keep It Aloha Pod. Young guy. He's got some amazing guests on his podcast. He stirred a lot of controversy just by a couple of clips. And that's the problem with clips, because you don't get the full context. But still, even out of context, in context, some of the attitudes that he portrayed were like, I'm better than you because I speak the Olelo Hawaii and you do not, right? So, and I know he didn't mean to put it that way, but the old way, so this is a saving grace for haole people that come to Hawaii. If you say Honolulu versus Honolulu, it's okay. We understand, because Hawaiians had the same grace.
Right.
Because you have Hanalei, and actually some people said Honolulu that were from the Big Island. When they go to Maui or Kauai, they would, like you said, they would adjust
their dialect for
out of honor.
Out of honor. Because in On Oahu, it was Honolulu, but on Kauai, because they have hana a lot of times in their words, so they would say hana lulu.
Yep.
Right. So it just depends on, but they would give honor to each other even in language forms. I like what Fractal Surfer said, can still bring the lumpia. I miss lumpia.
Yeah. Thanks, Fractal Surfer.
Right?
Thanks.
Tiger Ninja said,
Thanks.
thanks. Now I'm hungry.
Thanks. No soup for you. Let's see what else we miss. Tala said mainland indigenous have tribes, also bands, clans with those. Yeah, I agree. One more.
Turkey clans are families.
I am Wolf clan. Are you? I can make a joke with that, Tala. You know I can.
I am Wolf clan, so I would not marry someone else who's also Wolf. Oh, interesting.
I can make such a joke with that, but I will refrain. Just look up Matt Walsh, Wolf, and you'll see where I'm going.
Now, I will say this. A lot of Hawaiians are related. And so if I take my family, for example, right? My family's from Molokai. Molokai is a smaller island. I have family on Kauai as well. But, my grandma came from 12 siblings. Majority of her siblings lived on, I say lived because they're not alive. They lived on Molokai. So, you got cousins and then cousins and then cousins and cousins. So, whenever I meet somebody, if we were dating.
You always got to ask.
I always got to ask. Like, I asked my husband the same question. He said he was Hawaiian. I was like, oh, yeah. So where your family from? Because, I just don't want to.
Just in our defense, because Tala said, well, yeah, it's an island. Well, let's be clear. It's a series of islands. So that's why it's important. Like, if you're from Maui, you probably shouldn't date anybody on Molokai. Or if you live on Molokai, you probably shouldn't date anybody on Molokai. You should probably go to Maui, which is like a boat ride over. It's a few minutes boat ride. So to overcome that objection that Tala said, I'll put up on screen. It's an island. It's a series of islands. I think 6 out of 8 are habitable, and the rest are kind of like, you got to pick and choose.
It's funny.
Yeah.
I know. And so one of my uncles married his cousin. He didn't know was his cousin until the families met, and this was before they're getting married, and he still decided to marry her. And now therein lies the issue.
There are some sad. Actually, before I go to the sad story, can I tell them my famous Molokai story? So why did we go to Molokai?
We went to Molokai for
business, right?
Business.
Yeah. So we went to Molokai for business. We had I won't say the business. So anyways, we had some business to do. And so we stayed at your uncle's house.
Mm-hmm.
And so the uncle, he let us drive his car.
Mm-hmm.
So if you guys want to, if you want to have a visual representation of this island, if you've ever seen Lilo and Stitch, the first one, it's kind of like that. On this island, I am not even kidding. There's one traffic light on the whole island.
Mm-hmm.
And there's about 6,000 people maybe on the island.
8,000.
8,000. So for 8,000 residents, there's one traffic light. And it doesn't work. Okay. And it blinks. Instead of working, it blinks yellow. And there's a pizza parlor right there. And I remember we were sitting there at one time eating pizza. And we heard a car accident. We looked out the window. It was the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. Somebody got into an accident with a cop at a stoplight. The only stoplight in the whole island, and it doesn't work. And like that could have been a better story. But anyway, so your uncle's car. So we drove her uncle's car around the island, and everybody was waving to us.
Yeah, and I said, you better wave back.
Yeah, you better wave back.
And he said, why? And I said, because everybody knows everybody on this island. He said, for real? Okay. We went to the market. Okay. One, in Kaunakakai, there is one strip basically of stores, right? And we went to the friendly market, the friendly market, that's what it's called. Anyway, name has never changed since I was a kid. But anyway, we went into the store and we were shopping and we were at the checkout and the girl was talking and then she said, "Oh, you're not from here, yeah?" I said, "No, my family's from Molokai, but we're from Oahu." She goes, "Yeah, because you're driving Chucky's cars. I was wondering where Chucky was." I said, "Oh, that's my uncle. That's my mom's brother."
Well, remember what I did? You remember what I did? I put on his glasses. So I put on, my uncle's, he had his sunglasses and this big, like, it was like Donnie Brasco sunglasses. You guys know who Donnie Brasco? Put on a Donnie Brasco. I think, drive gangster, lean back and just, I had to do the shaka. And like, no, they knew it wasn't him, but.
But she said, "Oh, tell Chucky and Paula I said hi." I was like, "Oh, okay, what's your name?" And so when we walked out of the store, I said, "That's why you tell everybody hi. I don't care who they are. You just wave at them because it could be my family that is driving past and going, 'Oh, Chucky, stuck up and down,' wave hi, right? You stick your shaka out the window."
Yeah.
But that's how small the island is. Everybody knows, everybody knows everybody.
So going pointing the needle back to culture in Hawaii, that's how it is in Hawaii. Like everybody, we'll just do a blanket statement. Everybody kind of knows everybody, and if you don't know them directly,
Let me put the camera on you.
oh yeah, Are you
Yeah,
sticking?
I got it.
Okay, hold on. Let me mute your mic, and you are. Okay, hold on. Wait, how do I do this? There we go. Okay. Hello, family. So, baby duty. Okay. So one of our friends just gave birth. Home birth, yeah. Home birth, brother. Like with the whole what do you call that? Doula. With a doula or midwife. So my wife is gonna help for a minute, I think. I'm not sure. She didn't tell me. But going into the culture of Hawaii, it's very important, like, to understand that everybody knows everybody, and if you don't know them directly, all you gotta say is like, "Hey, what's your last name? Oh, okay. What school you grad? Okay. And then what island you from?" And those three questions will kind of pinpoint to an idea of that if you're related or if you are connected at some point, right? So Fractal Surfer on X says it's 3 degrees of separation in Hawaii instead of the normal 6. Coconut wireless is for real. No joke, bro. It is legit. Coconut wireless. And that's why I said it's important to understand that. Like, so we're in Oregon right now. I don't know if you knew this, Fractal Surfer, but we have property on a big island. We don't have on Honolulu anymore. But like, you've gotta be very mindful when you live in Hawaii. A lot of people that come from the mainland to Hawaii, they don't understand that. Like the lady, I know you guys didn't see it, most of you, but the testimony we played in the beginning of this podcast, I don't think she understands that Hawaii is an island, and when you do something like what she said, when she said that Hawaiian is a dead language, when she said that, I don't think she understands how crazy that is for her. And like, here in Oregon, you can kind of say and do whatever, and you just drive over to the next state. It's a good chance you can kind of hide. Hawaii, you can't hide. Like, you just can't. And so, even though we're like, so our house in Honolulu, we had, where we lived, it was 1 million people in that tiny little space. So I'm not sure if Tal ever seen our house. I had a few people from X that actually came to my house in Honolulu. Even though there's 1 million people, it's all congested, and just where we lived in that little pocket, we didn't really know anybody. But then as soon as we got out, we start talking to other people. We kind of had connections, right? But in that respect, when we talk about culture and the way things work, here's a sad story. I was hoping my wife would be here, but there's a very sad story. There are these low-income projects in Hawaii. One of them is called KPT. And one of them is called Mayor Rights Housing. Okay, so KPT stands for Kuhio Park Terrace. The other one is, what did I say? Mayor Rights. So they were kind of close. They're within 5 minutes of each other. Very heavy low-income families. When I say heavy, I mean a lot. There's a lot of low-income families, multiple ethnicities, predominantly Polynesians, Filipinos, not a lot of Hawai'i people. If they were, they didn't last too long because economically, you know, just in that type of social economy, Hawai'i people don't do well in Polynesian low income communities. They get beat up a lot, you know. So, here's the story. There's a lot of gang. Some people that don't know that there's actually a lot of gang activity in Hawaii. A lot of it is stemmed obviously from the fathers not being in the home, not having a good family structure. A lot of that you can say systemic. I don't buy that it's only systemic, but there is some systemic things attached to it. But that doesn't make excuses for it. The other thing is that there's a lot of gang activity that are tied to Samoan gangs and also with Mexican gangs, which sounds strange. It's not necessarily Mexican gangs in the communities. It's tied to the drug industry. Okay, so for example, I don't know what it is in 2024, but a few years ago, Mexican gangs, Samoan gangs were basically fighting over the meth industry. That's one of the markets. Okay, so, and of course there's others. There's the Yakuza, of course, and of course triads, which is not really. I've never heard anything crazy. We hear about it. So if you don't know, my wife's auntie retired from the Honolulu Police Department. I have a lot of friends in law enforcement. So there are activities like that. So going back to the culture, those two communities, KPT and Mayor Rights, they had a gang altercation. Both Samoan gangs. One person ends up killing another person. So two rival gangs, they kill one. They find out later that the guy that killed this other guy, they were related. They were cousins. And that was probably one of the saddest moments in our history in Hawaii, at least in my generation, in terms of that. Like when you kill your own family, you don't even know it. That was pretty crazy. You know, it's like, and that goes to show with our culture, just how close you're a lot closer than you think. You know, and they were legit related. It wasn't like, oh yeah, that's my cousin Tua Tagovailoa, that's my cousin. No, it's not this Miami Dolphins, oh that's my cousin. This is legit family. You know, and by the way, Dylan Gabriel is my wife's nephew. He's legit. So if you don't know who Dylan Gabriel is, I think he's gonna win the Heisman.
Yeah, me too.
You think he's gonna win? Okay, your mic is hot.
I think so.
You think he'll win?
My whole family is posting it on.
I hope he wins.
Facebook. I hope he wins. I'm gonna be so excited. So excited. They did an interview with my cousin the other day.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, he was super happy too.
I'm going to keep bragging about it. So my wife's dad, her dad trained, used to coach.
Mm-hmm.
Dylan's dad, yeah, in football. And Dylan's dad was actually pretty great too. So I hope how close are we to the Heisman? Let's look it up.
There's four picks.
Four
candidates. He's one of them. One of the four. So they had an undefeated season, and
it was held on December 14th. Who won it?
December 14th. It's not even honey. It's only the 12th.
Oh, this is my phone. This is Google. So okay, we gotta be nice to Google. Look what it says. It says, this is what my phone is saying. The 2024 Heisman Trophy Award was held on December. What the heck, Google? I'm freaking out over here. I hope he wins.
Hold on, I gotta check my cousin's feed.
I hope he wins. It's really close between him and Shadur Sanders. I hope Dylan wins it. Oh man, that'd be so crazy.
You can tell we're related. Garrett looks like my auntie Angie, whom my dad and my auntie actually they look the most alike. I want to say.
He's not.
Out of all my dad's.
They're saying he's third in a race. How can he be third?
I don't know if he's third in a race.
That's what it says right here. That they have these odds. That's crazy. Wait,
okay, so Dylan Gabriel, Oregon quarterback. Travis Hunter, Colorado wide receiver, DB, defensive back. Ashton Jonty, Boise State running back, and Cam Ward, Miami quarterback.
Okay, that's a nice little departure from. So I shared the story about the KPT mayor rights, the gang violence sounds like political, the gang fight or whatever. What do you call that? The two gangs were fighting, and when one killed the other guy, they were actually related. They were cousins, and both of their mothers. That was so sad. Both mothers were just so heartbroken. I never forget that. That was crazy.
Did they know that they were cousins?
After the
Yeah. See, that's why we have family reunions.
yeah.
That's why we have family reunions. We always would have, we call it the Lima Hui Ohana, and we always would have our reunions because of the fact we were such a big family that we needed to know our cousins. We needed to know our family because we are not like that, right? We don't want to be like that. And the same way, even with my dad's side family, I mean, they're Puerto Rican, right? But same values, I grew up with all my first cousins, same thing, like my mom's side. When I say my mom's side, we always had people, my family always in and out of our house. And when we would have a family reunion, everybody would get together. I mean, we would have these long tables, full with stuff. And, you're right there alongside everybody. You're making laulaus. You're making food alongside, of course, the other stuff we couldn't make, but the stuff that we can make, and that's what we would do in my dad's side family. Same thing. We would have these long tables. We would all come together. We would make pateles, and we normally would begin in October, and we would make for Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's, and that's how we would make it all. My nana had these big freezers, and the freezers
Did you say patele?
Yeah,
you gotta tell them what patele is.
Well, and the freezers would hold the pateles. So those of you who don't know what pateles are, they are the Puerto Rican version of what tamales are, but we don't use, we never used corn or corn husks. We used green banana and tea leaves, obviously, because, whatever in Hawaii, when my family came over, actually not just my family, but when families came over from Puerto Rico, they needed to adapt because, whatever they had back home, they didn't have in Hawaii. So, even on that side of my family, we were all raised together. We were all closely knit together. Like Greg was talking about my cousin Garrett. We went to all of his games. He played for UH. We would wait in line and we would stay at the stadium every time they had a game. And we would always go in. We would always support. And there was, big family would come and support. Same thing with Tua. I don't know if you know who Tua is, but same thing. Tua comes from a big family.
That's my cousin. Well. My cousin.
My friend Donnie was making fun of that because, all of a sudden, Tua's everybody's cousin. But Tua's uncle is my classmate. We were friends in school. Him and his sister, which is so cool. That and then Tua's dad, his sisters, I also went to school with. And they come from a very big family as well. But very righteous, good people.
I am mighty and I am righteous.
But, same culture, it's that family mentality, always coming together to support one another, No, not huck to a girl.
No. We don't want to add to her.
To a Tagovailoa.
Yeah.
for the Miami Dolphins.
So hoping Christ says, my bad, I just got, hey, what a grand entrance. What a grand entrance. And you know what? We're going to use
funny
this.
Entrance.
We're using this for Spotify. What the heck? You're going to be on Spotify, just so you know. You're going to be the Haktua proliferator. Is that the right word? Proliferator? I wanna put some grounding here. So we're talking a lot about Hawaiian culture. We're talking a lot about a Native American, First Nations, Indian culture. You can say whatever one you like. I don't want to offend anybody.
But we're just talking about this is
the culture.
The culture that we keep. This is the culture that we have.
So to ground everything, I want to be very clear that first and foremost, my wife and I are I don't use this word a lot. We're Christians. We just love God. Obviously Jesus is in our heart. name is Jesus. So, but if you don't know who we are, I'll kind of reintroduce ourselves. So, my wife and I were born and raised in Hawaii. We love the Lord. We started pastoring in Hawaii in 2019. We opened a drug and alcohol rehab as a partnership deal with Hope Center Ministries. We just love serving the Lord, and we're very passionate about obviously our roots. We know who we are. I'm not Asian. I'm not brown. I'm not. She's not part 1% white. We're very passionate about ethnicity, but also tying and connecting the dots.
Mm-hmm.
Hawaiian culture is important. First Nations culture is important. American culture is important, but there's one culture that should supersede them all. And if our culture does not run through that filter of kingdom culture, Matthew 6, when Jesus said, this is how you pray, let your will be done, let your kingdom come here on earth as it is in heaven. So that is our filter, that whatever culture that we think is important, we run that through the Lord and his kingdom culture on this earth.
So
right?
kingdom culture is a spirit-led, biblically based family of God, embracing every nation, every tribe, every tongue, right, is language, every people, committed to worshiping Jesus and living out kingdom values in their community.
Yeah.
Right. That's our commitment as kingdom culture believers, is this is who we should be. If you didn't know, well, now you know. If you're a believer and you didn't know, what all of that entailed as a believer, that's exactly what it is embracing every nation, every tribe, every people, every tongue, every language. We are committed to worshiping Jesus and living out those kingdom values in our communities. And as believers, this is, this supersedes all of our culture.
So to answer the question, is Hawaii dead? We didn't do the title to be we didn't do it to bait and switch anybody, but
thank you.
But part of that is like some of the culture has to die. There are certain parts of our culture that we should put to death in the era of paganism, certain things that are not of the Lord, when they worshipped things that are not that are just straight up idol, right?
When we go back to history and historical writings, there are Pele is a big thing in Hawaii, right? But it was never on every island. It was only on the Big Island. Kauai was different. Like every island, I feel like had their own little tidbits of things.
Here's a side discussion to that. Do you think it's because they didn't have access physically to the islands, so they had to, you know what I mean?
Well, maybe, but I think my roots are in Molokai because that's where my grandparents came from. My great grandparents came from Kauai. My great grandma, so the family on Kauai is they were believers. So my tutu that came over from Molokai, she's the one who gave the land to the church so that they could build.
So what is Molokai famous for? If we just, and this is for fun. What is the island famous for? If it was a god, demigod, or a little micro god, or a big god, what would it be? I tell everybody.
I know. Molokai was known for, you tell me.
You tell me. Honey, you're bumping the mic like crazy.
Sorry.
You're driving me crazy. So the joke was because the question for anybody that just came in, the question was some she said Big Island, because I'm from the Big Island. So for geographical, I'm gonna do it. I can't do it this way. So I think this is right. I'm gonna try to do it on screen. So Big Island, volcano, snow. We have volcano, snow, desert, rainforest. You have who's closest to us? Maui-ish. I'm going to get it wrong, but so basically Big Island, which is Hawaii Island, you got Maui, Kauai.
Have a lovely day, Disco Papa.
Hey, Disco Papa. I didn't even know who's. I'm so sorry I didn't see you come in early. I appreciate you being in here. Sometimes my software doesn't show me exactly who's in here, but thank you for being here. I appreciate you. So anyways, the islands all have different geographical features.
I think Maui is next to Maui's next to the Big Island.
Yeah, Maui's
Then you got,
closest.
Um,
All the smaller. Kauai's at the end.
because Kauai is the oldest island.
So as far as major, you got Big Island, Maui, and then you've got Oahu, and those are the three bigger, and then all the ones
Right.
in between.
Molokai is between Maui, so that's why it's such a small boat right away. And then no, Kauai is not at the end. Ni'ihau is at the end.
Well, Kauai is at the end in terms of inhabitable.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's probably what I should have said.
Habitable.
What is it?
Yeah,
Habitable.
yeah. Paganism has always been a thing throughout the lands, but I also believe that
Now, to be clear, that doesn't mean that all of Native Hawaiians were like that. They actually did worship God even prior to missionaries.
But I want to say, I think through every culture there has always been paganism, and I also believe that there is also a love for God.
Yeah,
in that,
because
and we never need. People always say it was. They always say, "Oh, the white man is the one who came over to Hawaii and introduced." No, we already knew who God was. So,
Yeah.
for what I've been told about, even the names of, you got Hawaii, you got Maui, you got Oahu, you got Kauai, right? So all the okinas between, that's how they were created. Kauai, Molokai, Maui, Lanai, Hawaii Island, right?
So Hope
So
and
the-
Christ brought it up. She's probably pulling the trigger early on you.
Io, right? Is a god that we knew. His name was Io, and it means the one true God, right? And so this is what the islands were named after. So they carried the E, which is the I at the end.
Yeah.
In every on every island except for Oahu. Oahu, they use the O instead of like E-O or E-O. They use the O instead of the E. And that's how the islands were named. And that's how I knew how the islands were named that way. And so the same thing with Iolani Palace. Iolani, the one true God of the heavens.
So from a scriptural perspective, and she pulled trigger, she actually fired shots early. Shots fired. She brought it up, and she's right? Because now that we're from a kingdom biblical perspective, the word does say that everybody has an opportunity to know Him.
Yeah.
So sorry to all of my Howley friends and missionaries that you helped, but you're not the one that, because Hawaiian culture existed way before you found out about us. So, but she's right. She says that we are born with an innate knowledge of God. He does, at some point in our history, he gives every man, woman, child an opportunity to get to know Him.
Remember, we're made in God's image, right? That's what I said yesterday.
That's just scriptural, and that's not it's not even cultural. That's just scriptural.
Right. That's Genesis 1:27. In case you just no. Genesis 1:27. We are made in the image of God.
Yeah.
That's the way that He made us.
So it's a joke. It's probably a bad joke, but the Hawaii has a history of missionaries that's written into our history, that they brought the gospel. They brought maybe the Protestant gospel. I wouldn't even say Protestant, because a lot of it were Catholicism. So they brought the Catholic version of the gospel. And of course various different ones too, but
There is Protestant.
Yeah.
I don't know whether,
So for example, Catholicism is the most dominant initially in Hawaii when we're talking about Molokai, for example. That's all Catholic.
Catholic and Mormon.
Yeah.
Both. Yeah.
So
they have churches called the Kalavina churches. That's what my mom then would call them, the Kalavina churches, meaning they were the first churches in Hawaii, and they were.
How do you say Kalavina? What?
Kalavina.
Is that supposed to represent something?
Yes, the Kalavina churches are the first churches of.
How do you spell that? I'm gonna look it up. I never heard that before. It almost sounds like you meant to say Calvin.
No, because even what is her name? Says it Kale. It's like, oh, the Kalavina churches.
Yeah. Let me look it up.
And so the Kalavina churches would be like the church on the Big Island, and there's Kawai Ha'o. There's another church, I forget. Anyway, they were the first churches. I mean, of course, Jesus coming soon, right? Because
I keep seeing the Kawahao, how you say it?
yeah, Kawai Ha'o.
Kawahao Church.
They are one of the Kalavina churches.
Okay, that's what.
So the first churches too also only spoke in Hawaiian, but if you look at Kawai Ha'o, I think they are the only church that still speaks in Hawaiian.
Oh, okay, interesting.
But we, you know,
Okay, here we go. So Presbyterians, Congregationalists, Dutch Reformists. Those are the initial. I like how they use this word, stories of unenlightened natives.
what is non-enlightened?
Exactly.
natives?
And people wonder why you saw the video you saw. Unenlightened natives. This is an article in 2024, family. When was this published? This was published.
You know, and the one of the funny things is that we were called savage people.
I think all people were called savage.
Yeah.
If you weren't from Europe. Bunch of savages.
Savage, that's savage.
I'm savage, Greg.
Yeah. I mean, we were called savage people. People weren't happy because we are dark people and we had a kingdom. It's like, what?
Well, we are credited for killing Captain Cook. So maybe that was savage.
Yes. I mean, although, okay, so the history of the people versus the true history, right?
Yeah.
Captain Cook. Okay.
He was a crook.
Yes, they did kill Captain Cook, but if you have a king and your king is taken hostage, what do you think the people are going to do? Retaliate, right?
Yeah.
So Captain Cook had died in an engagement in Kealakekua Bay because he decided he was going to take the king hostage. And what did you expect the people to do? Like, okay, bye, king. No.
And he was probably drunk. Let's be honest. He was probably drunk because you're outnumbered thousands to, what did he have? 100 people at best? Not even that. So I think he was intoxicated. Like, what in your right mind would make you think that he could overpower thousands upon thousands of people? Like, that's just crazy.
Right. So once the people noticed that, you know, this is what had happened, obviously this is what they were going to do, right? Because when you get, you know, your king or, you know, the president taken hostage, of course, you know, the people are not just going to sit back and go, okay, bye, you know. So for whatever, you know, however they doctored it up to make it seem like we are savage people and that we wanted to eat him. And it's funny because I shared that story with my grandma, right? Because a lot of my, all of the things in history or what we've been taught in history, when I would go to my grandma's house, I would ask her questions. And she would get so mad. And she's like, we did not eat that king. Not that king, but she said, we did not eat Captain Cook. Why would we eat him? She said, we are not savages. We don't eat people.
That's interesting.
But yeah, I mean, that's one of the history things that they would tell, that we were a savage people, that we ate Captain Cook because we were upset. We killed him. But, you know, when you think about it, when you actually look at the history and the way that they're telling it, well, here's the real historical part. You know, they came on land overnight. They went to go steal a king. Well, what do you expect the people to do if you're taking their ruler? Like, if we take it to modern times, like if it's the president of the United States, right? People are not going to sit back and just let you take the king. I mean, the president, right? In the same way, that's exactly how they reacted. And they should have reacted in that way. And Captain Cook shouldn't have. Yeah. Yep. Savage tagline. That's funny.
I was looking at a comment article. Tagline Savage. Oh, I got you. So Tala she is a savage, bunch of savages. So I had to go fact check myself because sometimes I just say I pull the trigger early. So and this is not, guys, we're not historians. We are passionate about our culture and our people, but what can be verified through fact check is that there are literally thousands of people that surrounded him. So, like you said, you're going to try and come and take our leader. Hello. So I don't know how it actually played out because there's different stories there, but in a nutshell, there were literally thousands that just surrounded them. So it was a massacre, even though they had the quote unquote their Marines, because the words he used, that Captain Cook had he had his Marines with him. Like, I don't care how many Marines you got. Like, what are you gonna do when it's like those games you play on your cell phone, there's thousands of people. Like, there's no way.
Right? You protect the king at all costs.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't know this, and we talk about culture, and I know we're spending a lot. We actually didn't go through our bullet points, but I don't think we will. I might share a little bit, but there's a lot of our history that we've talked about before. And one is the 97%, 95% Christian.
I think it's 97%.
So for people that don't know, there was a time in Hawaii's history where 97% of our population professed to be Christian. I think we're the only people, and I won't say state because they weren't a state at the time, but we're the only people that are connected to this union, this United States, where 97% of our people were Christian. And of course, a lot of that came through, through rule, through the monarchy at the time. So,
and it wasn't a monarchy where it said you have to do this or else. That's not how it went. Yeah. It was because, I would listen to my grandma, and they wanted to honor the king.
Yeah.
They wanted to honor those who were ruling above them, and so they came into alignment. With what do you call that? With that which the ruling king,
they loved,
queen.
They served, and they believed in the kingdom rule at the time. It wasn't a dictatorship. It wasn't evil monarchy. It was, they actually believed, and that's I think the reason why it worked was, one is the type of culture that the Hawaiians were. Mm-hmm. Even though they had a Western form of governmental rule instilled upon them, right? So for people that don't know, part of the overthrow of the Hawaiian kingdom, it started with the infusion of British culture. That's really where it started as far as the overthrow. So what they would do is they would pick royalty from Hawaii, and they would send them to England, and they would learn the ways of Western Western ways, basically how to operate in government and learn about the laws, and that's kind of where it started. That culture of Hawaiian culture now being sent to, and then they would come back, and that's how they would. Now I know there's a lot more details, and I'm sure a lot of my Hawaiian historians you missed a few. Yeah, I know I missed a few, but in a nutshell, that's kind of how the culture started to change. It was when they started to go educate our leadership in different different countries, right? So,
remember we said in our history, like Ka'ahumanu and Keopuolani, they converted to Christianity, and I don't know how that happened. I don't know if they just had an encounter with God, or what influence, what had influenced them at that time. And this was way before.
What year was this?
This was during Kamehameha.
So before
Kamehameha had passed away. or during Kamehameha's rule.
So before 1750-ish, maybe around that.
Because when did he unite all the islands? Like 1790 something.
No, not that. It was before that. Because wait. Yeah, I'm in the wrong century. So in the 1890, because the overthrow was 100 years after that. Close to 100 years after he unified. Yeah. We gotta go look at it.
Because it wasn't that long ago.
Right.
1810. What? 1795 he conquered.
Yeah, so about 100 years after he unified is when the overthrow of the Hawaiian Kingdom happened. Right.
Under one government.
Yeah. I hope somebody's learning something about our culture, because this is fun for us talking about. This is probably the most energetic one we've had this week. Because yeah. But I want to reinforce what we said, that as much history as we're excited to share with you guys, it really does point for me and my wife and our family, that as important as our culture and history is, there are things that we have to run through the filter of God and say, does this bring you honor? Because there are some things that in our culture that do not honor the Lord, right? And we have to make sure that we're careful on certain things. That's why, for example, hula, there are some types of hula that you know obviously better than I do, that you just don't do, right? Because it doesn't glorify the Lord. It doesn't
glorify the Lord. So not all hula is evil. Not all hula is satanic. Hula was used to tell stories. Whether it was before, women back in the day could not do any form of hula. So it was the men that did, and they didn't, dance feminine. The men danced very manly in their dancing. And the men would do kahiko. There's two different forms of hula now. Before it was only kahiko, and then now there's kahiko and awana. So the difference between the two is, one is more of a stout kind of movement, and kahiko is more of a serious thing, and awana is more of a easy flowing, how you see people dancing nowadays. When they do the thing like that, that's very different than. And
just to remind people, hula is not about the hips.
Yeah, yeah, it's not about the hips, but that's the history of it. And so the men would dance, and they would tell a story of before they would go to war. They would dance, and they would the chanting in the dancing, it was to tell a story of what they did, how they conquered, how they won victories, and that was basically to encourage, the men that, hey, this is what we did and we can do this again, that kind of thing. Now, they did, do kahiko, and it was banned. I don't know. Hips don't lie.
So she has a great question. I have it up on the screen. Can you see it on the screen?
Were the people who were sent to Europe to learn used to overthrow the ruler like spies?
That's a great question. It's a very good question.
Not that I know of, because, okay, so I have my family line, some of them, and I have documentation that they went there to learn. So I don't know, what was it called? It was called the Blessed Hearts. No, not the Blessed Hearts. Basically like a boarding school for those who were of royalty. They could go to these schools and they would learn, I forget, Sacred Hearts of something. And they would put their kids on this to learn, I guess, to learn the culture, and then learn how to read, write, or whatever in English, and then come back home. There was also a man named Henry Opukahaya. He was educated. He went to go get an education, but also he became a missionary. Actually, he got saved, and he wanted them to bring the gospel back to Hawaii. to win the people over. So I want to say that when the revival broke out in Hawaii, when we were almost 100% a Christian nation, was when Titus Cohen and another guy came and they started preaching the gospel more in Hawaii. But it's not like we didn't know who God was, but the revival happened during that time when they had came over.
So to answer that question, spies, no. But I do believe that there was probably a very small percentage in that, maybe a big percent, I don't know, but that their ulterior motive was to overthrow the kingdom.
Yeah.
Now, we talked about this. Fortunately for Hawaii's history at that time, it was probably by then kind of frowned upon to just do mass massacres. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I'm not making light of what happened to First Nations in North America. However, Hawaii, I'm not saying, I'm trying to make it as emotionally accurate as possible, but like, I'm not saying we had it good, because we did it initially, but compared to the either you get massive massacres of people, or you do it through indoctrination, governmental rule. So to answer your question, I don't believe it was like that. How specifically, I do believe, however, there were some initiatives in place to say, maybe in 5 years, 10 years, this is how we're going to eventually assimilate or take over.
Now,
that's what I might be wrong, but that's just what I believe.
Polynesians are people who are connected through water, right? So if you watch Moana 2,
great movie.
It is that way. We are connected through water. Now, because we are water people, we move in different areas, right? So, you know, where we end up, like if you do your DNA testing or whatever, you can kind of see the lines of, you know, where your family has been or whatever. One of my friend, his family line only goes back to Aotearoa, and so Aotearoa is the modern day New Zealand.
Yeah, New Zealand.
But I always refer it to Aotearoa because that's what I know. I have always known it as.
Let's teach them, because even I love saying it. So if you want to know how to say, here's a New Zealand word of the day. It's easy to. You want to say what the people of New Zealand, is that our male, are like? It's, go ahead,
Aotearoa.
Aotearoa. So you kind of roll your R a little bit. So that's how you would say it. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, honey.
I forget what I'm saying now.
I see our postman.
Anyway, so if you do like a historical study on where we've been, you know, we've also been through what is that island called?
Which one? Where?
They call Easter Island something else. What is the name of
Rapa Nui.
Oh yeah, Rapa Nui. Rapa Nui. Okay, so that's part of a place that we came from too. So
now that's closer to Chile for those that don't know the location. Yeah.
They had slaughtered people there, and they had moved people away from their islands. Now they did not have according to not history books, somewhat history books, but according to the written documents by people who actually documented these things, you know how they would do all these journals and stuff. They slaughtered people, moved them away, brought them back because there was so much backlash of what they did to the people, and they didn't even have. They were there to greet the people, you know, because they seen like all these new things happening, and so they were talking about canoes, and they couldn't understand, you know, how the native people could be on the water and their boats not sink, but they got giant boats and their boats sink, and to know how they made these boats and how they sat in it was just intricate and very smart in the way that they've learned it and these things, and this is what they were, you know, learning from the people of Rapa Nui. I say all of that because Rapa Nui people we are related because of, like I said, we're connected through the water, right? We come up through all these ways. We've been in different places. There's also historical evidence of us being up in the poles. somewhere out there as well, because we would travel. We would be
For
traveling people.
For people that don't know, Native Hawaiians didn't have navigational instruments, right? They didn't have like I forget what they call it, sextants or something like that, where these metal instruments that they could. Hawaiians did it literally visual. They would look at the stars, and that's actual documented fact. If you look up Hokulea, for those that don't know, is it Lilo and Stitch? Which is the other one? Moana. The first Moana was very accurate on how, and then then they highlighted again in Moana 2, and they actually consulted with the guy who, what is his name? His wife,
Nainoa Thompson.
Yeah, Nainoa Thompson. They consulted with him for the historical piece of it. So, and I've done a live stream from
Kukani
Loco, which is the headquarters where they would teach people how to navigate. And there was other things. But anyways, so for people that don't know that, Hawaiians were expert navigators. They didn't need all those instruments. They basically used the stars, and that's how they navigate.
And Kukani Loco is a bunch of rocks. Okay?
Birthing stones.
It's like what do you call that? Pumice stone or lava stones. They would have like this big looking bowl in it, right? And at night they would train them because they would pour water in it, and so when you pour water in it, it would reflect the stars.
I'll share it in the comments for people that want to watch it later. I'll share it on Twitter, on X, and they can watch that live stream where I actually showed that. It's pretty powerful.
So it would reflect the stars, and they would show and teach, through navigation through that as well. So that's such a powerful a thing. Like, and I've said it before, cultures bring good things, right? But also cultures also have, they got their moments as well. They got things that they bring, both good and bad, right? But we take the good and you push out the bad. Like hula we was talking about hula has always been a not always a bad thing, but they did ban hula for a while, and I'm not sure, I can't remember why they had banned hula, but Kalakaua brought hula back, and it helped to preserve the language. Now, I believe maybe they done away with hula because some of that came with the chanting to these gods and all these other things that they didn't, want people to do. But, obviously in hula, that's some of the things that they did too, chant to these gods who they thought would bring them victory. But I do know majority of what they did when the men did dance kahiko, it was to tell a story of, kind of like the Bible, what they would sing. Sorry.
So I shared it in the what the heck? I tripped over. So for people that are watching on X, on Twitter, I posted the replay of what my wife was talking about, the Kukani Loco, which is a birthing stones area, and I did a live stream there a few years ago, and you can watch the replay, and I walk you through exactly what she was talking about. And it was really cool because I think my kids were there. I think I can't remember, but I shared it in there. And if you're on YouTube, Twitch, Kick, or Rumble, you just got to go to Twitter and you can watch it. So, but to go back to the culture of it all and how powerful, you just think about like all the rich history from navigation to the people. For that, and then we're going to go back to the lady, for the lady to say that the Hawaiian language is dead. You can feel the pain in the room. People are like, oh my God, like, how dare you? Right?
Even for people who are not Hawaiian but live in the land, they too understand that.
They're like, did you just say that? And some of the people, if you watch the video, some of the people are like, did you just say that? They're like looking around. Is anybody else?
I think that's why Augie was smiling like, oh my gosh.
Okay, here's a question. Hope in Christ says, can you define hula?
Mhm.
It sounds like it's a form of communication that may or may not entail worship of spirits. That's a good question.
It can and it can't. I mean, it can if that's what you meant it to be. But a lot of it was to tell stories, and that's how they would remember stories. Like even in our language, they would sing about a flower, right? So they would tell a story about how beautiful a flower is, or there's a song called Aloha Oi, and it's one of a very famous song. And Aloha Oi was written by, I think, Queen Liliuokalani, and she wrote it as a goodbye to one of her friends, right? Because back then, of course, they traveled on boats and stuff, so it took them long, and maybe she wouldn't see him again or whatever. But those kinds of things, or like, the Yellow Ginger Lane, that's another song that they would sing about lays, the beauty, the smells, the ocean, the rainbow, just songs made up in that way. And then, of course, there can be songs written as a form of worship to a deity. In that sense, now the chanting mostly was done to deity, not necessarily the dancing, and that was the culture. But now, yes, people do that. They chant and they dance to these deities, like the Merry Monarch, which is a big thing in Hawaii. They would go up actually to the Volcano National Park. It's Volcano, yeah. And they would dance to like the overlooking Kilauea, and then chanting to Pele. Now, that's stupid to me.
Yeah.
To me, it's stupid. Dancing and chanting and wanting Pele to come. And I think a lot of this is ignorance, because they don't know. A lot of them that do this stuff, like, they just don't know what they're doing, right? They don't understand that they're calling forth demons, to come forth, and they don't understand that part. So I'm not, that's just ignorance on their part. And then you got those who actually truly believe that they rule and all these things. So you got two different types of people that do it now. But for context back in histories, that's not what it was used for. Chanting now was used for that kind of stuff. I'm saying in general, when you look at the hula or whatever, of course you got ceremonial things that people would do, like kahunas would do ceremonial things, obviously. Like every culture, they would do ceremonial things for that.
Every culture has a rich history in dance,
right?
Song, dance, singing, worship,
right? But not all of our dances were just to worship these deities.
I think, as a rule of thumb, and I want to connect this dot, because there were, I think in our lifetime, when churches started to incorporate hula, initially it's like, you can't do that, but here's what I'll say to hula, and to answer that question, like, if what you do brings honor and glory to the Lord in that context, now as long as you're not doing it to a deity other than the Lord, like, you look in the Old Testament, like when David worshiped, right? I'm sure there are some things he did worship-wise that might have been radical back in the day, but he loved the Lord, and he served the Lord with all, like, he loved the Lord with all his heart, right? And of course, he had some things he did. But my point being, in the area of worship and in dance and in hula, there are some forms that you should not do.
Right. So, like, growing up dancing hula, there are some things that I did do that it never glorified God. I want to say it that way. And there is a dance that we did do that was very vulgar, not understanding that, but dancing it anyway, because they don't teach the, the truth of the vulgarity in that. But when you learn what it is, like, oh my goodness, I shouldn't have been, dancing that song, because back, it just, some people are just ignorant to those things. Even the kumuhulas may not be as what do you call that, versed on
The history.
the history or the intent of the music. Now, dancing hula, when you are dancing hula, and this is how we were taught, is that you have to know the song. So you don't just know the song in Hawaiian, but you also know the song in English, and you also understand what it means to dance. And for those who dance on that level, there is there's a heavy burden that comes with that, knowing when you become a believer, knowing that that's a weight that you had to carry. And I had to lay that down, and it's the reason why I stopped dancing for a long period of time, because it can get into that spiritual nature. Now, I had a friend who we used to dance hula together, but often she would go back to Molokai and hang out with her family. And so there's a very famous kumuhula who tapped in the spiritual side of things. And my God, when she would come back and she would start dancing, she literally looked like a lizard on the ground dancing. And it was a song about a lizard, but I think it had to do with a deity. But you can see the manifestation. Like, there is no question that there was manifestation there. And she said, "Oh, sis, you like me to teach you the song?" I was like, "No, thank you.
No, thank you. Well, maybe
No,
next week.
thanks." But not knowing that one of the songs that we were learning were very vulgar and was about that thing, right? So just because she was manifesting doesn't mean that that's not what we were doing too at the same time, right? So to me, there's grace for that. Not for the worshiping of different things, but for the ignorance of what you don't know that you're doing. There's grace for that.
Yeah, not today, Satan.
Yeah. And so
Here's what I'll add.
having to lay those things down and repent. Really, I had to repent for those things. And I had to know that it wasn't in my heart anymore, and when I dance, it was just for God, and not bringing up those memories of things and then the desire of those things.
This is what I'll add for people that are outside of Hawaiian culture. It's not just us, right? It's every culture. And what I will, as a word of caution and encouragement, I have no issue with someone celebrating their history. But if you are doing, since we're talking about dance, when you're doing a dance that honors something that does not honor the Lord directly, and you idolize that, I'm not going to pinpoint or pick on any culture specifically, but I think we all do it at some point in history. You worship water, you worship air, the earth. When you glorify that over God, you are inviting those spiritual entities to have residence in your life. And here's what I'll say: if God is not residence in your life, someone else is. And then we wonder why there's other issues and problems, is because we invite those things to have legal residence in your life by honoring those pagan, whatever you want to call it, right? So I would say that, just as a word of encouragement to anybody that's like, well, I'm not Hawaiian, but what if there's other types of...
Right. And we can only speak to our culture because, I grew up in my culture, right? And in the culture. I grew up with Hawaiian culture. I also danced in the culture. I also chanted in the culture, right? I've even watched my like my kumos, we would go to these places and you give an offering and then you would chant and all these things. So that's in the culture, and not understanding the effects of some of these things. And so I'm going to bring up that so there's this lady who's speaking on behalf of saying that this is demonic and all this stuff because people do the haka, right? And the one lady that was in the parliament, I don't know if you guys ever seen the video, but she was doing the haka. I think it was haka.
Yeah.
In the parliament, and she was ripping up this thing. What this thing that she was ripping up was a treaty. It was on the grounds of treaty. That's a whole issue that they're having there now. If you understand Polynesian culture and you understand the issues that we have with indigenous culture, and then you got either a westernized way or another culture that has colonized our cultures, right? There's always a fight for freedom to perpetuate our culture, or just to be able to live the way that we.
I'm so proud of you, honey.
Live in our culture. But so this black woman who's supposed to be a believer was speaking on these issues, and then she had shut down her comments, and then she took it off, and then she put it back on again, and she was saying all these things. And I don't have anything bad to say, except I'm not going to say anything bad. What I am going to say is this: if it's not your culture, then you shouldn't be speaking to it, because if you don't understand, yes, everybody has, like we were talking about dancing and chanting and all these things, right? Every culture has this, good and bad, but you cannot say that all of this stuff is demonic because you don't understand the culture. Right? Because you don't understand something. And, the Bible says that make every effort to live in peace, right? That's not peaceable. You're speaking on something that you have no idea, nor have you lived there, nor it's, part of your history or anything like that. And that's what I got to say about it.
It's kind of like me saying in a very shallow way, all black people do this kuta kente voodoo dance. Like, no. That's so shallow and racist, Gregory. I don't say that, and so I know that's a really bad example, but I agree. Like, that's why I won't speak to Native American, First Nations of North America people, because that's not my culture, although there are some similarities. Mm-hmm. But that's not my place to speak on that. Now, the appearance of some of the haka will make people question, is that why are his eyes rolling back, and why is his tongue sticking out like he's possessed? So there are some haka where the intimidation factor, so some of those are war dances to intimidate.
Yeah. And so it's the same way in Polynesian culture, that's what it was used for. War dances, and, to perpetuate fear, to intimidate your enemy, right? So that's what the war dances were for. I'm sure there's some sort of mixture, in that as well. But I was like, oh my goodness, she's speaking to something that she doesn't know. And so people were trying to educate her, but not like in a mean way, where they're trying to explain what she was doing.
On Instagram? This is where you saw this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What Tala wrote it. Yeah. And so if you don't know, okay, the king of the Maori people had passed away, and
vacuum.
So I had watched all this type of thing unfolding, and I was like, oh my goodness, the king had passed away. Now what's going to happen, right? Mm-hmm. So just like Hawaii had become a constitutional government. So Hawaii was ruled by a constitutional government later on throughout our history, right? So they voted for either his daughter or his granddaughter is sitting in that position now. But there's a lot of protests that have been going on. There's a lot of things that are going on in the Native culture, with Native people that, if you don't know, then don't, if that's not your culture, you don't know, what to do. The best thing you can do is just be silent and pray for them, that God's will would be done, in the midst of what's happening, because a lot of we are sisters. Yeah. Yes,
We're legit
she is.
related. They're our cousins for real.
Yes, we are sister nations, basically. And the thing that they fight for is the same thing that we've been fighting for. They're fighting to have their place. So one of the things that they were fighting for too is to be able to perpetuate their language even in parliament, right? I just gonna say that. Same thing. It's the same kind of fight. To keep their language alive, right? Them too. Their language. They want to perpetuate their language. They want to keep their language alive, right? And there's some things that they do that was even unacceptable, like for us as a people. For them, it's like tattoos and stuff. And so one of the big things that they were looked down upon is because the women would have the tattoo over here on their chin and neck, and that's part of their culture. And if that's, I don't know, I can't speak to, I'm just saying that it shouldn't be looked down upon because of those things. And so people shouldn't be speaking to things that they don't know about, culture. And I would say, pray for Aotearoa, because they are in a fight for, I see it all the time. And, my heart grieves for them as well, because I know we've been fighting. They cleared the floor. Yeah. Yeah.
So if anybody wants to learn about New Zealand or Aotearoa, they are obviously, so Aotearoa, Hawaii, or Hawaii, we are literally blood related, and also our people. We elevate each other, really. We honor each other.
Mhm.
But the one thing that I will say that the Maori people do praise the Hawaiian people about is obviously the ability for us to navigate. You watch any movie, Whale Rider is a good movie to see the connection between Hawaii and New Zealand. Great movie. If you want to watch and learn more about the Maori culture and how they've been hurt, I highly recommend you watch Once We're Warriors. Although trigger warning, there are some really hard things to watch in that movie. There's
It speaks truth to the native.
yeah, Once We're Warriors is a very good movie to learn what happened to the people, and how when you expect a people like the Hawaiians or the Maori culture to assimilate into Western culture, it doesn't work.
Yeah. Because we were people who never had alcohol in our system. Like we had kava, but kava is different than and then you give it to a people and they don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's like poison to our system.
I think in that movie, when they depicted how it affected the Maori culture heavily, you can see that. So for anybody that doesn't know that movie, Once We're Warriors, the lead actor is Boba Fett in the Star Wars franchise. I think that's his name. Yeah.
Yeah.
So great actor. Just I want to throw it out there. The trigger warning is this: is that there's a scene or scenes in there that are very hard to watch because it involves children, and it involves, and I want to say this because I'm on YouTube, but it involves the violation of youth. I'll just leave it at that, and you guys can kind of do your due diligence. Just Google it before you watch it. Don't say, "Hey, you didn't tell me." But other than that, it's a powerful movie.
I love Whale Rider too.
Yeah, did I say Whale Rider already?
Yeah.
I did. Yeah, Whale Rider is a great movie.
I like Beat Up Her Grandpa.
Yeah.
But you know what? For Native culture, it's so true. I mean, so true. On both movies are so true. When you have a cultural line like that, is I would see them. I say I see them both in my family. That's why I say that. Yeah, and I am a child of an alcoholic, and
Well, too.
it's been generational. You know, it's been um generationally extreme on those fronts. And it is not just, you know, seated in my parents, but I seen it in my grandparents, and I seen it in my aunties and my uncles, and you know, their parents. And it's like, wow, it's just you watch this stuff and you think it's a normal way of life, you know, of it's normalized for you, so why is it wrong if it's normalized for you, right? And then you learn that it's not normal. It's a dysfunction that has been generational. And like I said, there's things you generationally, like, you know, we shouldn't have fire water, you know, exchange
Is that
for
what they,
sandalwood. Yeah, fire water. That's
They
what I'm
call
calling it. Fire water.
in our defense, we didn't give up our nation for alcohol and guns. Just throw it out there.
Fire water.
Put the guns back in. Fire down from the hip. But you know, in all seriousness, here's I think we should quit. Yeah, well, let's land the plane in a few minutes. I want to encourage anybody that's watching, and I hope you learned something from today. But I want to always point it back to not just about Hawaii, but culture. Your culture, obviously, first of all, learn your culture. Because if there's things going on in your life that you just can't quite figure out, like, what the heck? Learn your culture, learn your people, learn your ethnicity, and see if there's something there that may be
generational patterns
that may be anchoring you from movement. And I'll just leave it at that. And another great movie to watch is Rapa Nui. So Rapa Nui, Whale Rider, Once Were Warriors, those all kind of connect the dots to what we're talking about. Rapa Nui is a great movie. It wasn't like super cinematic or great writing per se, I don't think. But it's a good history. It's a point of view on history. Where Rapa Nui is one of those colder Polynesian, because Rapa Nui gets pretty cold too. They're not Hawaii, and neither is New Zealand. New Zealand is not all tropical like how Hawaii is. But
one of the things in the movie Rapa Nui that they did was
can we pause for a second? I'm so sorry. Nikki, what's up, Nikki? She's part of my Discord family. I gotta give a shout out to my Discord family. She's here. Hey, good to see. And by the way, I'm not sure if she. So we did the Secret Santa, and I already did the Secret Santa. But hey, I know this is totally sidebar, but check this out, family. For weeks they've been saying, "Hey, if you didn't put your address in your Secret Santa, put your address in." I'm sitting there looking at our group. I'm like, what? Who is this guy not putting in his address? And yesterday, I'm like, I'm the guy. Oh my gosh, I feel so bad. So what I did was I took down all of my high ticket items and I put the $10. So, but anyways, our Discord family is great. It's like we're a bunch of Periscope refugees, and we're a bunch of Periscope refugees. We have our own social network outside of everybody else, and but then we also have our business Discord too. That's where our cryptocurrency company forum. We had our meetings on Discord. So I don't think Nikki was a part of that marketing team. But anyways, there's Nikki. She's a live streamer as well. She's a top 5 gamer. I think she does the farm game, whatever it's called. I'm just kidding. I don't know what she does, but she's a gamer too. But it's good to see you, brothers and sisters from what? From other misters and mothers. Yeah. And she's a doctor too. She's like a full-on doctor. She's got like 5 PhDs or something like that. So anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to. I had to acknowledge her because far few and in between and rare for her to come in our lives. Culture, Hawaiians, connecting the dots.
I was talking about Rapa Nui. One of the things that Rapa Nui highlights is something that was in our culture. And so I have one of my great grandmothers, she was in Kalaupapa. So if you don't know what Kalaupapa is, go look up the history of Kalaupapa. And it's where they call it the Hansen's disease. What is it? Leprosy. Leprosy was a disease.
Hansen's disease?
Yeah, it's called Hansen's disease. It was brought over from from foreigners to Hawaii. Anyway, and leprosy was, I don't know, they said contagious or whatever. Anyway, she was the lady in Rapa Nui was put in this cave. Now that has truth.
Oh, Rapa
to
Nui,
it.
that's right.
Yeah, she was put in a cave. So, when you had leprosy, so my great grandmother was taken down to Kalaupapa because she had leprosy. So what they would do with people if they figured that they may have had leprosy, they would put them in caves and they would incubate them in there. I would say incubate them, but they would segregate them for a month in there. And then after a month, they would take them out of the cave. And if they had sores and things, then they would take them down to Kalaupapa. Now, Kalaupapa on the island of Molokai is a town, but in order to get there, you had to take a donkey ride. It's a very slim ride. I don't know if you guys ever seen the trail, but the trail was very slim, riding trail all the way down to the bottom. And one of my aunties actually used to do the donkey ride down when they did, like tours and stuff.
Why donkeys? Just curious.
Because they can stand on the thing. Have you ever seen? The thing is very steep.
I've seen it, but
Yeah.
why not like
Because basically they want people going in and out of there, I guess, maybe because that was, really, so it was either that or they would put them on a boat and they would throw them off the boat. So they would take the boat as far as they could and then they would throw them over the side. And if they could swim to shore, then they would make it and they would live. If they did not.
So what is
then these
leprosy
people would die.
exactly? I know there's a name, but what exactly is leprosy? Is it an autoimmune? Is it a type of cancer type? Family? What family? I can Google it.
It's not cancer. It did eat away at.
We have a doctor in here. She might have stepped
Yeah,
out, but Nikki just wants to
can't
come
remember.
in and just show her face.
Yes, it's a virus, but it would
Oh,
what do
here
you
we go.
call
Oh,
it?
she's still here. Okay, so here's our doctor. She's not if I were a doctor, however, anyway, so she's actually a nurse practitioner, but she is a doctor. She might as well be a doctor. So it's a bacterial infection. Well, let's fact check her.
Anyway, go ahead and look it up.
You're gonna look it up. I pulled it up. So it is a contagious disease that affects the skin, mucous membranes, and nerves, causing discoloration and lumps on the skin, and in severe cases, disfigurement and deformities.
Yes.
Leprosy is now mainly confined to tropical Africa and Asia.
So when they would go down there, they would tell them that they would never be able to return to their family. So if they wanted to, they could start a family down there. So my tutu, who was down there, she actually got remarried down there. Now, when she was in Kalaupapa, she left behind, I think, 6 kids, if I'm not mistaken.
Nikki
Between
and
4 and
Tala,
6 kids.
you're both fired. You guys are bad fact checkers. Just throwing that out there.
Anyway, and then when she went to Kalaupapa, she got remarried and then she had kids down there.
So do you does it transfer to kids potentially, you think?
No, I don't.
Because I don't think so. Because remember Vinoya's the mom had.
Oh.
Remember she had all those bumps on her skin?
Yeah. That's what that is. I thought it was something else. Anyway,
yes, that's right. Hope in Christ, we're going to report them to the licensing board.
I was saying that to say I met one of my kumus had a friend and he would come in and visit us and he would tell us stories and stuff, but he actually had leprosy and he didn't have an arm and he lost one side of his eye. Like he lost one side of his eye from having leprosy. A lot of the people that were in Kalaupapa were like that, and they treated them like as if they were they treated them very badly. And so, the honor of Father Damien was Father Damien came and he lived among them and he decided to stay to take care of the people down there. He ended up having that disease and he ended up down there and he ended up taking care of the people because nobody would come and nobody would take care of them. Like I said, they treated them like they were basically nothing. My grandma was the one who told me about the boats. She was the one who told me about the boats, and it only came out later about the boats. But she told me that they would put them on boats and treat them like they were, I'm gonna say savages. She said a word
We're
that
all
was
savages.
so disgraceful.
Yeah.
She said, if they could swim, they would make it to the island. If they didn't, then they wouldn't. But she said there was a stench that would come from that because they would have all the dead people
Or rotting flesh doesn't smell too good, right? That's why.
on the shoreline, on the shoreline. And if you've seen Kalaupapa and you've seen the outside of Kalaupapa, it's like that basin kind of where the boats were. It's crazy. It's crazy. Just
Tala said that
the
there
way
was a
they're
rat that it eats his fingers off. I didn't know rats had fingers. I thought nobody had toes, but I guess they have fingers.
Well, I don't know if we had a rat, but I know we had a rat in our house when we were younger, and my parents bought one of those sticky thingies,
Yeah.
and the rat had bit off its foot, and only the foot. We was like, ew, this is so
listen,
gross.
rats' lives matter, family. We're not making fun of rats, but
Anyway.
let's read this high definition comment by Nikki. So it causes nerve damage, and then you can't feel your fingers or toes. It's kind of like diabetes, and then you can injure them, and that can lead to needing it amputated if it gets badly infected after injuring toes or fingers. So obviously there's nerve connection. And then Tala says, "Thank you, Nikki. Appreciate your high definition information." Tala says the odd thing is that it's not incredibly contagious. You have to have extensive contact, but people didn't know. Oh, it's just the rats eating people's fingers. Well, why would the rats eat leopard? That makes no sense to me.
Yeah, it does.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Like if you live in subhuman conditions, and the rats would eat your. And then Hope in Christ puts rats eat emoji. What emoji? I can't see that. Century long.
It's the fingers.
Is that what that is?
Yeah.
I can't see that. Is that a finger? Oh yeah, wait.
Because rats are vicious.
Rats are vicious.
Rats are gross.
Okay, we gotta go because I'm getting hungry. Hey, can I make you guys watch an ad? No, I'm just kidding. You'll watch the ad in closing. But
anyway,
let's bring it to a head.
Culture.
Before we do culture, here's your guys' homework assignment. Watch Rapa Nui. Watch Once We're Warriors with a disclaimer. I want you to look at it before you watch because there are some very triggering, sensitive scenes in there that involve children. So, and then Whale Rider. Watch Whale Rider. That's your guys' assignment.
Right? Rats are the real savages.
Yeah, rats are stuff. Okay, so let's land the plane. We've had a lot of landing spots, but I want to land it on. Of course, we all know Hawaii's not dead. If you want to get context, watch the beginning. Or go on my Twitter, watch the video, and then let's connect the dots.
Did it make you hungry, honey? Talking of rats and
I'm trying to get serious here. What the heck? Talking rats make you hungry. Legions, yeah, legions made me hungry because I want to eat some gravy. Ew, gross. I know. We have some very gross friends on. My son is like, what? Who's eating? Ugh. Okay, so I'm trying to get serious. So here's what I want to say, family. In everything that we're talking about, we really want to point you guys to something of value and of worth. And we hope that you learn something. But in the area of culture, like we said earlier, just like do your due diligence and know who your way came from, your ethnicity, your culture. I think you can learn a lot about how to succeed in life. So let me turn over to you, honey, and then I'll close this out and land the plane. You can close the door. So we're gonna end it. Go ahead, honey.
It's trolling me.
So in summary, you are 100% on cam now. In summary. I
don't know. It's important to learn about your culture in summary, and you can get upset about some of these, these things, just like this, like this lady, and the whole language is dead thing. But, you know, as a believer, kingdom culture, as a believer, you know, kingdom culture always triumphs over all these things. And we understand that we have to learn how to be cordial with people, even in the midst of stupidity. I could say it that way, because that was just blown out of the water.
No, it's bad. I feel bad for her because she's got the entire kingdom of Hawaii coming after her now.
She don't even know.
Yeah, she has no idea. I bet, you know what, we'll pray for her. So
We'll pray for her because she has no idea
poor thing.
what is going on. Poor thing.
Poor thing. Poor thing.
But by she learned.
Bye-bye, she learned.
But it's funny. But you know, like I say, kingdom culture, we believe triumphs over all these things. And it's not that, you know, it's not that it comes overnight, but you know, it's a process to walk out kingdom culture. And you know, some of the places that we've been stuck in it's a process to walk those things out. And like I said, therefore, that's why I haven't been dancing hula for a long time, because of that.
Me too. I stopped dancing hula a long time. I don't dance hula, family. I'm just joking. I don't do hula. Although if I did, I would probably have some pretty fat quads.
Probably some.
My quads would
pretty
be massive.
Then they say, "Hey, there's that Polynesian."
Yeah,
Basic cause is
would
like,
say,
whoa.
would say, oh, your boyfriend, he's Japanese, yeah? Your husband, oh, Japanese, yeah? Yeah.
Right? No rat shall prevail against us.
Amen. Who said that? Oh, that the emojis.
But yeah, the culture, the kingdom culture, the culture of God always triumphs over our ethnical culture, if I could say it that way.
Ethnical?
Yeah.
We're getting so silly. You can't even say words right.
Ethnical culture.
Ethnic. Time out, brother. Whoa, ethnical. This is not gonna make it on Spotify. Sorry, guys. Ethnical? What the heck?
Technical culture. No, I don't know. I just.
We're trying to end this, and we can't. And by the way, my quads are bigger than commas. Just so you know, my quads are bigger than commas.
Comma.
Now commas' calves are bigger than mine. Yeah. Okay, take that back. When me and comma met, my quads were bigger than his. My quads are smaller now, but
It's from all the spam.
okay. Anyway, we gotta end this because I'm getting hungry.
Okay, go ahead.
Ethnical. So due to ethnical difficulties, yeah, we'll take it off cam because you're gonna start crying. You're off cam. I gotta mute your mic, honey. Sorry. So unless you want to come in, you just do a thumbs up. So hey, we appreciate you guys. Yeah, I don't care about Blaine's calves, Tala. But thank you for hanging out. And our dream of doing these things, this is something we never thought we'd be doing it together. This is not a podcast. My wife says it's a podcast, but it's not a podcast until I put it on Spotify. I don't think this will make the cut today, but I don't know. I'll have to go back and watch it. There's a lot of blowing noses, a lot of little noises here and there, and just some ethnical difficulties. So, but here's what I'll say. We hope that we brought value to everything today. Like, and I know some of you came in and out, and some of you hung out the entire time. Some of you are on replay, so we thank you for that as well. What I will say is that we hope that the exchange of your time for this was worth it, and we don't want to be frivolous in our time. I know we have fun, but here's what I'll close out with. Like, we know that God loves you. He wants to have a relationship with you, and everything we talked about, it all funnels to this relationship with the Lord. And we hope and pray that if you're going through something tough or whatever, hey, reach out to us, DM us. We do answer DMs, unless you're saying, hey, don't you know my sister likes you? No, we don't answer those DMs. But I just want to make sure that you guys understand that this is all about him, not me, not my wife, it all points to him and how good God is in our life. And so I want to just leave it with that. Leave that on the floor. To Fractal Surfer, Beth, Richard, I see you. Hope in Christ, thank you. Tala, of course, Nick, and YouTube, Twitch, Kick and Rumble, thank you for being here. Do me a favor as I close out, help a brother out, help a literal brother out, Brother Noah. He's one of our product partnerships with Noah's Beard Oil. So we're going to play his ad on the way out. As I always say, love you guys. Thank you for your time, your heart, super heart, your data, all that good stuff. And most importantly, family, thank you for your time above everything else. And I hope that the exchange of your time for this, that it was worth it. It was definitely worth it for me and my wife. We enjoyed this. So I hope you guys have a blessed rest of your evening, morning, time, whatever time it is where you're at. And as I always say, love you guys. God bless you guys. Ahui ho. Aloha and mahalo. Yes, sir. Chihu. Today's episode is brought to you by Noah's Beard Oils. For those of you that are trying to grow out your Fu Manchu like myself, or you're doing that whole Sasquatch Pacific Northwest look, well, go to Instagram.com/Noah's Beard Oils. Everything you need to moisturize and also just to freshen up. I have 2 bottles myself. I have a bottle of Fresh and also a bottle of Calm. So if you want to look good, go to Instagram.com/Noah's Beard Oils. They accept Cash App and other types of payments. Don't forget to use my promo code gLO808 for free shipping off your entire order.
To whoever may need this nugget of encouragement, things will be alright, so quit your worrying. I get it, the odds can stack back against the wall, but even consider it such, no, you'll stand firm.